welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today it's a 9.8 market update video. I got 20 completed listings in a 9.8 to go through, and certainly we'll talk about the comic book market as we go through each one. But if you're seeing any completed listings out there in the 9.8, let me know in the comments below with the price, or maybe you had purchased a 9.8 yourself. And yeah, hopefully these videos could become kind of an even better resource for completed listings in a 9.8 moving forward. So first one up, a no-brainer Deadpool key issue for sure. First appearance of Deadpool, New Mutants 98 in a CGC 9.8. Seeing some strength in this issue, kind of just in the short term. It'll be interesting. I'm pretty sure there were kind of a little bit of whispers, maybe Deadpool is going to be in the Doctor Strange MCU movie. That's how they might introduce him into the MCU that way. So some recent sales, $1,825.10 and $1,899.99. And we had documented quite a few of these that had kind of went for $1,600, $1,700. So maybe just off those rumors, maybe adding another $100, but who knows? On March 11th, so getting on about a week ago, one had sold for $1,499.99. I'm pretty sure that was before some of these recent kind of whispers. So I think that's the range on this one. Maybe if you get super lucky, maybe it just cools down after these kind of latest whispers. You get it for $1,500 over the next few months. And a couple of others selling $1,825.10 and $1,899.99, so $1,900. And certainly the timing's pretty solid on a New Mutants 98, I think. About a year and a half ago, peak of the hot comic book market, there were some Deadpool I think they were confirmations that, yes, at some point Deadpool is coming back to the MCU. And this one during that time was $2,700, admittedly in a hotter comic book market. So I think now's kind of the time to buy. Yeah, it's cooling down. When Deadpool comes to the MCU, that's going to not be the time to buy. Essentially, this will heat back up and the prices will go up again. So, yeah, if you're a Deadpool fan, you can think about grabbing a New Mutants 98 in kind of that fair value range we talked about. Okay, next one here. Kind of a good example of a hot new comic book. A lot of times you're probably best to just be really patient on it. It's an Amazing Spider-Man number 55 in the second print variant. So this was that Patrick Gleason cover that initially came out. I really love the eye appeal of this cover for sure. Kind of a great concept cover, I would say. But it was pretty heavily overdone. For myself, I got 2 raw copies on New Comic Book Day of the first print. But when they started coming out with the second print variant, and the third print, I was just this is going to be overdone. I don't think these are going to be investment grade books. And even this Amazing Spider-Man second print in kind of the popular white variant, selling in an auction here for $86. And this was one, I'm pretty sure they were kind of $150 to $200. This second print variant was sort of supposed to be one of the more rare variants of this book, but over time, usually these New Comic Book Days, you lose a little bit of the luster, and you can get a way better deal if you just wait. This one, a year and a half. You're getting it for $86. And even in the first print, much better prices now than when that one had come out if you're in the market for an Amazing Spider-Man 55 in a 9.8. Next one's a great modern, Immortal Hulk #1 with the classic Alex Ross cover. Yeah, I just absolutely love this cover. This is kind of going down, I think it's going to be a modern classic cover that's really well collected. The first solo Immortal Hulk titled comic book, I guess, on this one. In an auction, I think this is a good price, $148.50. Yeah, occasionally on this one, the comic book market a little bit hotter about a year and a half ago. This one was around $200. I remember a few sales, so I think $148.50 if you want an Immortal Hulk #1 in the first print 9.8 is a solid price target to aim for. Yeah, under $150 on that is sounding like pretty solid value. Next one, Daredevil 181, Death of Elektra on this one. A solid kind of Daredevil key issue out of this era, seeing in an auction sell for $275. That's a pretty solid price for this one. I think kind of $250 to $300, depending on how great the centering is on this one, and everything is kind of the price range on a Daredevil 181 if you're looking for that one. Yeah, kind of probably the second key issue that you'd want if you're a big Elektra fan of that era of Daredevil comic books. Daredevil 181 9.8 selling for $275. Next one's a pretty cool one if you're a Batman fan. I've sort of thought about maybe grabbing this one off and on, and this is a pretty solid price for it. It's a Batman Adventures Annual #1. First appearance of Roxy Rocket. I think this is 3rd or 4th overall appearance of Harley Quinn. And Roxy Rocket is kind of, I think she's a sort of a mercenary, or maybe she's a cop, and She kind of flies around, and I think she's more of a villain than, yeah, I should have did a little more research, to be honest. But this one selling for $133.50, which I think is a pretty solid price for this one. Pretty sure occasionally, this one has heated up off and on over the years and maybe has gone up to around $200, but definitely one you want to try to get under $150. So $133.50, solid price on a Batman Adventures Annual #1. Next one is a Batman 608 second printing. Yeah, just this classic Jim Lee cover in a pretty lower printed second printing of a Batman 608, the beginning of the Hush storyline by Jim Lee and Scott Williams. This one selling for $617 in a 9.8, and I think that's a pretty solid bang-on price. I think Batman key issues like this, a pretty obvious Batman key issue, I think just heating up a little bit with the Batman movie out right now. This one, you probably could have got it for kind of $550 like 6 months ago or so. So now maybe they're going a little over $600, heating up a bit with that Batman movie. But if you're into Jim Lee Batman, that is the one to get. And I think if you can get it under $600, that's going to be a price target to aim for on a Batman 608 second print. Okay, next one, Thor #1 from 2014. This is, when Jane Foster becomes Thor for the first time. This one selling for $295. So you know what, I have a feeling this one is going to be pretty similar to like a Captain America 25 when Sam Wilson becomes Captain America. That one leading into Falcon and Winter Soldier was about $300, $295. I remember them probably going for that exact same price. And then now after the movie, those are kind of selling for about $155. I remember seeing an auction go for, we documented one. So this one, leading into Thor, Love and Thunder, $295 right now. Probably want to be patient on this one. I have a feeling 6 months to a year after that Thor, Love and Thunder movie. This one is where that Sam Wilson Captain America book is right now, kind of, $150 to $200, I would say, in a 9.8. So yeah, I think this one's just going to be a little bit hot leading into that Thor movie. It'll probably cool down after the movie, in my opinion. So probably one to, not really grab right now leading into that movie. Okay, next one's pretty solid like mutant spec right now, I think. An Astonishing X-Men #6. First full appearance of Abigail Brand. So, X-Men coming back to the MCU. Maybe they bring in an Abigail Brand into the X-Men, the new MCU X-Men. This one's selling for $301. I think that's a pretty solid deal. You could probably get this one a little under $300, certainly. Kind of a little bit closer to $250 if you were really strategic and, waiting for a good deal. But right around $300 is pretty much a fair value on an Astonishing X-Men #6. That might be one to consider leading into like MCU X-Men at some point. Here's one that looks to be dropping in value a little bit. Uncanny X-Men 282 in a 9.8. This is like first cameo of Bishop and Malcolm and Randall, but a lot of people go after this one because he's on the cover as well, even though it is the cameo. Seeing one sell, $208.50 in an auction. And this was one where they were right around $300, all for like the last year, like as long as I can kind of remember. People have been sort of speculating on X-Men books, and I did, recommend on this one. It's probably one you just want to wait for a cool down on because, if the perfect thing doesn't happen, like Bishop gets in the MCU X-Men, maybe in these Doctor Strange movies, I thought it's definitely one that's going to cool down. And it looks like it has. So, yeah, you know what? 282 though, now, a little closer to 200, 208.50, I think is a price target to aim for, with a lot of these going right around 300. Yeah, I remember, 299, 305 in auctions in the last, certainly in the last year on Uncanny X-Men 282, Direct Edition 9.8. This one is just looking like a really cool Moon Knight book in the 90s. Moon Knight #55. This is the first Stephen Platt artwork on this one, and kind of surprised me. In an auction, this one was going for, ended up selling for $380, all US dollars, all the prices we talk about too. So yeah, if you're the biggest Stephen Platt fan, this is absolutely one to target. His first art, and cool looking cover, going for pretty solid money, $380. I can't say I know too much price history on this one, to be honest, but if you're in the market for that one sold for $380 recently. This is a pretty solid one for a new comic book. I really love this homage cover. It's a What If the Punisher #1 from 2018, with kind of it looks like a kind of a Miles Morales Spider-Man as being the Punisher, with a Punisher Limited Series #1 homage. This one's looking pretty cool and kind of catching a buck too. I'm going to be interested in this one, kind of seeing how this one sticks around, because in an auction, one had sold for $154.08. Like, that's pretty solid for a brand new book that is really not really a key issue, just, you know, a cool what if book with a great cover. So 154.08, one of those selling for. And yeah, I'll see if that one kind of hangs in there over time, because yeah, for like a modern book, that's not a key. 154.08 is pretty expensive, I think. Next one, A Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, #1. This one's from 1996. A pretty solid like Star Wars speculation, I think, moving into, you know, they're going to have a lot of new Star Wars content in the next just, you know, 5 to 10 years, for sure. It's first Prince Zyzer and first Dash Rendar on this one. Seeing it in an auction, I think this is a really good price too, for $190.50. Yeah, I think anywhere under $200 on a Shadows of the Empire #1 in a 9.8 is like pretty solid Star Wars speculation, I think. And Shadows of the Empire is just a pretty solid like Star Wars story that a lot of Star Wars fans like. So even if the kind of speculation doesn't work out, Shadows of the Empire #1 around $190.50, I think, is pretty much a, you know, price target to aim for on that one. Here's a new one that I am just loving this cover, and I kind of want to get around to reading this one because there is a first appearance. It's a Moon Knight #3, which is the first appearance of Harvest Moon. And I'm really liking this Reis variant, which is still kind of cheap, but loving the eye appeal on it. It is the more rare variant for this, you know, Moon Knight 3 book, and maybe the Harvest Moon kind of works out. Who knows? Maybe that character gets in the sort of new Moon Knight show that's supposed to be coming out. Yeah, so as a new comic book, this one's looking pretty interesting. Great cover. The Reis variant sold for $163.50. So, you know, it is a new comic book. Maybe the Harvest Moon doesn't really come out in anything, and this one cools right down. But a great eye appeal on that cover. So $163.50, one selling for. That'll be one to kind of keep an eye on and see if that modern kind of hangs in there. Next one, An Invincible Iron Man, #1. First Ironheart cover on this one. This is a pretty solid one to consider leading into kind of the Ironheart show, I believe it is. A couple prices on this one, $137.50 and $133.58. I think those are price targets to aim for. And yeah, I could see, you know, this one probably a decent buy right now. And then if you're into kind of maybe flipping some books, you know, Ironheart comes out, maybe this one's like $220 at that time or something like that. So Invincible Iron Man #1 might be one to think about if you're a big Riri Williams fan. Next one, A Spider-Gwen #1. Yeah, first solo Spider-Gwen title. Great cover on this one too, I think. And heating up a little bit with kind of some of the Across the Spider-Verse teasers recently. $205.50 on this one. And yeah, recently, I think since those kind of teasers, this one has been a little over 500, or 200, sorry. Whereas before those teasers, it was probably a little bit under 200, a little closer to 150 even on a Spider-Gwen one. But cool cover, one you can enjoy as a Spider-Gwen fan for $205.51 selling for. Here's one that's I've kind of considered in the past a few times. Green Lantern 201. It's the first Kilowog, and I'm pretty sure it's the first like Green Lantern Corps comic book as well. Green Lantern 201. Apparently on this listing they said like Kilowog is going to be in an HBO Max show apparently. I don't know anything about that, but this one selling in a 9.8, pretty old one for $527.70. So that's definitely higher price than I've saw these in the past. I'm pretty sure these would sort of sell in that sort of 350 range, maybe 300 range. But now people, you know, that Kilowog might be coming out on an HBO Max show apparently. So this one seems a little bit expensive from where it's been, but kind of a cool one. Yeah, I think, you know, basically sort of 2 first appearances on this one with Kilowog and Green Lantern Corps. So you know what? Yeah, that could be one maybe kind of worth chasing, a bit of a hot one, because it just kind of stands on its own as a really cool Green Lantern 9.8. But $527.70. Maybe you wait a little under 500 on that one in a 9.8, hopefully moving forward. Next one is a Darkhawk #1 from 1991. Pretty surprised that this one's just basically hanging in there, really, you know, pretty solid. Saw a direct edition in a 9.8 sell in an auction for $335. I thought this one would be prone to, like, you know, the comic book market is kind of cooling down in the last year and a half. This one would really cool down as well and probably go all the way back, like, down to $100 or so, where it was, like, in 2019. But $335 is, I think, a pretty stiff price still for a Darkhawk #1. Maybe there's some rumors I'm unaware of or something like that, but I'd probably aim a little under 300 on that one. An early 90s book, going to be super heavily printed. There'll be a lot of those getting graded coming onto market. So kind of in the 275 range, I would think about a Darkhawk #1 in a 9.8. $335, probably a bit of an overpay. Alrighty, next one, Edge of Spiderverse, number 2. First appearance of Spider-Gwen. Saw one sell here in the last couple days on eBay, $1,735.05. That's pretty solid. You know, this was one maybe, 2-3 weeks ago. It was a little bit hotter because it was right after those Across the Spider-Verse kind of teasers came out. And I saw one sell, it was like 1,900 and something, and I think a few had sort of went right around that level. Maybe a couple went a little over 2,000. Just wait a few, weeks after those kind of teasers is sort of what I recommended on this book and Ultimate Fallout 4, and you're saving probably about $200 already on with one going $1,735.05. And the next one, Ultimate Fallout 4 in a first print, 9.8. Saw one sell for $3,150. So when they were selling for that $3,500 kind of a month ago, I made a few videos like, just wait, be a little patient here and wait for this one to cool down, you'll probably save yourself a couple $100. And that's basically what's happening right now. Yeah, 3,500 they were just about a month ago. Now they're 3,150 one had sold for, so you're kind of saving yourself a couple $100 there. And I think, if this one gets down to around 300, that's the point, as you just got to be like, yeah, this is a modern one to want, and, right around 3,000. If I didn't have one in a 9.8, I'd probably think about starting to think about buying one of these, because it is kind of just the modern comic in the 9.8 to get for sure with a first appearance of Miles Morales. So if you want to be a little more strategic on that, maybe wait for just a little bit under 3,000. But definitely, again, saving yourself a couple $100 from kind of peak hype just a month ago with, Across the Spider-Verse going to come out. People were excited. This one really skyrocketed. But an Ultimate Fallout 4 going for $3,150 in the last few days. And a last one here, an Omega Man number 3, first appearance of Lobo, kind of a no-brainer DC key issue to think about for sure, especially if you're a Lobo fan. Saw a few of these in an auction sell for $350 and $390. That's kind of like a bang-on fair price range on this one. I think, yeah, $350 to $400, depending on like how great the centering and colors are, is going to be the price target to aim for on an Omega Man number 3. So hopefully you can kind of get one a little bit closer to $350 in a 9.8 on that one. All right, team. We'll leave it at that, though. I'll have the full list in the description below with the prices if you want to have a quick look at some of the prices. But, yeah, you know what? I think most books are absolutely hanging in there. Some books, some weakness, but I would say they're mostly secondary keys, or it's understandable that there's a little bit of weakness, like in the Ultimate Fallout 4. Like, it makes sense that one's kind of pulling back, and the Edge of Spider-Verse 2 is pulling back just a little bit from those teasers like a month ago. But like an Uncanny X-Men 282, that seems to be pulling back, the first Bishop. But then there's a little bit of strength in New Mutants 98 with some rumors. So yeah, overall I think the 9.8 market is just hanging in there, and some pretty solid prices for big key issues on the whole, I would say. All right, team. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. If you're liking my content, please subscribe and hit that bell, and I'll keep you updated on future videos.